Hey, what's going on everyone? This is Mike Kollin at mikekollin.com. Alright, so this video is going to be the last video of this series. It's going to be probably the most abstract of the last two videos, of all three videos. And that's really what this series of videos is really about. So we in the Western world, the Western world literally means left brain. Okay, the Eastern world means right brain. Okay, so the left brain is like the very specific, detailed, logical brain. The right brain is the out of the box. So the left brain is in the box. The right brain is the open brain. Okay, so there's no limitations. There's no limitations to the number or amount of options or possibilities. So essentially what this video is going to be about is letting go of the thinking in the box or limitation brain. It's about finding a way to truly and completely let go of all thinking, of all images, of all everything, just letting go of everything to where you get to the point of nothingness, which is not a point, in fact the complete opposite of a point, an expansive, wide open way of being. In order to do that, meditation is very much required. Learning how to truly meditate on a level of where an hour of meditation to you is nothing. And it's not necessarily the time limit, it's the ability to access that space of nothingness. Because when you access that nothingness where there's no thinking, there's no let me figure this out, let me picture it this way, like when all of that is gone, there's no internal dialogue, nothing, all of a sudden you have access to everything. Now, where do I come from when I talk about this? I come from actual experience, okay? So a little brief history of mine, which I've mentioned in the past, I'll make it really brief this time, is there was a point in time where I meditated every single day for over 12 years. I didn't miss a beat, okay? I started out meditating in the morning for about an hour to 2 hours, and then when I'd come home later at night, I'd meditate again for a minimum of an hour plus, okay? I did this every day, every week, every month, every year. And then on the weekends, I would meditate for anywhere up to 14, 16, even 18 hours. Now, the minimum, for the first 4 to 6 years, 8 years, the minimum I would meditate on the weekend would be a 4-hour block of meditation of just nothingness. Now, what led me up to this was this. I made a commitment to meditation. At first it didn't come easy to me. I didn't get it, didn't make sense. It was just kind of this weird hokey thing, and I was asking people. I went to like Berkeley to this meditation center. They had this book, and in fact they're the one where you have to pay. I think it was at the time it was like $800 for like a word. It's only your word. No one else on the planet has it. And they ended up saying, "Oh, we'll buy our book." And it's like, "Oh, well, the book's going to teach me." No, the book just talked about meditation. It didn't teach you how. And then I bought another book. So I went around to a Japanese temple in San Francisco, and then I went to another one, and like nobody would tell me how to meditate. So some kid at college, he said, he was Asian, by the way, and I remember we were just sitting down at lunch, and he just said, he said, my mom says you already know how to meditate, just do it. And it worked. I just made a commitment to meditate for an hour every single day, okay? And it didn't come easy. It took quite a while. I don't remember if it took 2 months or 3 months or whatever to get any kind of results, but all of a sudden I started noticing things. I was different. I was shifted. I noticed conversations were deeper. I understood people better. I could almost start, over a period of time, I could start to like read people better. Now here's what happened. I had some positive experiences, so then I would meditate for an hour, and I noticed one day I went to the grocery store immediately afterwards. Luckily it was really close, about half a block away, and I was just really mellow, watching everyone kind of scattered, ping-ponging all over the place, talking about eyes ping-ponging all over the place. And I thought, this is really cool. I'm in the chaos, yet I'm completely clear. So what I would notice is that the anxiety, the confusion, the chaos would come back. It's like, oh God, and it was just kind of like, I've been doing this for months, at least 4 or 5 months at this point. So I got to a point where I had peace, and it lasted for about 30 minutes, and then it went away. So then I got more determined, and I meditated for 2 hours, okay? And I noticed the peace lasted for about an hour, and I thought, okay, that's interesting. So essentially, whatever amount I meditate, I can go out in public and be in that consciousness and that clarity for half the time. So then it was 3 hours, and then it was 4 hours, and then it got to a point where like what happens if I do it like 12 hours, like all day long, okay? So this got me to access deeper states of, I don't know what to call it, awareness, consciousness, okay? So I got to the point where I realized when there was literally nothing, no thoughts floating up, from that space, I could begin to manifest. And from that space, the manifestation would come faster. I'm going to give you one story of many, because this isn't really the purpose of the video, but it gives you an idea of why it's so important. My ex-girlfriend was missing. She just up and left one night, okay? And her sister called me about a week later, and because I had called her work, and I called around like, hey, do you know her son? They're like, no, we haven't heard. She's gone. And so her sister called me crying and begging me, and because she thought she was staying with me, and she goes, I don't care if she's staying with you. I'm not going to get mad, please. I'm like, you need to call the police, because I actually called the police and said, you're not her husband, so you can't make a report on her, a missing persons report. So I told her sister, like, hey, you need to call the police and make a missing report on her. So what I did was, later on that night, I got I got really worried. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to meditate, and that's going to guide me to where she's at. So I meditated, and I had to, it was really hard, because I wanted to know, so I had to let go of that. I had to completely let go of it. And I started meditating until I had absolute clarity. It didn't take long at this point, 45 minutes, maybe an hour, probably less actually. And it was just kind of like something inside me said, just forget it. And I was like, okay, and I did. And then something goes, get in your car. I was like, okay, what is this? Okay, so I got in my car, I started to drive, take a right, okay, go up the road, and all of a sudden it went away. And I'm like, well, what the hell? And so then when I got close to the freeway, it says, take this exit, or on-ramp. So I took the on-ramp. I'm going down the freeway, and it went away again. I was like, well, what the hell? And so I was going about 15 minutes down the road, and I was just about to give up, and it says, take this exit. I was like, okay, cool, you're back. Like, it was a feeling. It wasn't like words or nothing. So I took the on-ramp, and it's, the feeling was take a left, go over the on-ramp, et cetera, and it took me right to exactly where she was at. So here's the deal. I began to realize that we are creators if we can access this space. But I shouldn't even say that. You are already creating your life. The problem is you have this box, and you're in the box, and you're creating from the box. And the problem with that is, unless you change something inside the box, you're just going to keep creating the same thing. And that's what this video is about. Alright, so I had pulled a muscle in my lower back about a month ago. And a neighbor lady had noticed. She goes, you okay? I was like, man, I pulled my lower back. It really hurts, and blah, blah, blah. And she goes, hey, I got something for you. And she gave me this cream. It was medical. It's from her doctor. She had to go, it was prescribed something. And this is going to be some good stuff. So I was looking forward to it. Okay, because I haven't used anything like that. I haven't used any kind of cream or anything for pain in well over a decade, much more than a decade. I'm thinking at this point in time, they've probably got some really good stuff. So I rubbed this all over my lower back, thinking I'm going to feel great in a few minutes, and nothing. And then another few minutes, nothing, and then 15, then 20. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, maybe not rub enough on, so I rubbed more on. Nothing. And yet my neighbor lady swears by it. She's like, oh, it's the best thing in the world. It's blah, 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 blah. And I was kind of disappointed because I was really looking forward to this stuff working, and it didn't. At least not for me. So what I did instead after a few days of trying this medicated lotion is I ended up doing some energy healing on it, and that is what worked. Now, it didn't work instantaneously. It took, I would say it took about a day and a half, 12, I would say 18 hours or so, and it just clicked in, okay? Alright, so remember in the last video, number 2 of this series, where I talked about how in argument and debate class, I had to prove that cigarettes did not cause cancer, and I actually found proof, factual evidence, etc., in people that had lived into their 90s, that had smoked a pack or 2 packs a day, etc., etc. And so that cracked open my brain to be, because I hate cigarettes. I can't stand them. Forgive if you smoke, please forgive me for saying that. But I just, this is like one of my things, and I didn't want to do it. I thought it was unfair of the teacher to do that little trick to where, okay, now that you don't like it, that means you have to prove that they're good. And I was like, what? And so it really opened my mind when not only did I win the competition, but I found so much evidence that my brain started to go, wait a minute, but all these doctors and all these evidence says that it does cause cancer, blah, 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 blah. And then there's a friend of mine who owns a landscaping business, which was in the last video. I'll make it real quick. And he's out in the sun all day long. He'd been doing it. He'd owned his business for over 30 plus years. He went to college to get his, I forget what degree. I think it was ornamental horticulture, but some degree to be a landscaper, okay, to learn how to deal with plants and all that stuff, right? And he'd been out in the sun his entire life. In fact, I can't remember what university he went to, but it was on the beach in Southern California. And he's like, dude, I used to surf because I was on the beach all day long and blah, blah, blah. He goes, Michael, I've never had cancer. He goes, but here's the thing. He had this belief. Now, during his work, he was in the sun a minimum of 4 to 6, sometimes 8 hours a day. And this is like 4, 5, 6, 7 days a week for decades. And he goes, Michael, the sun is nourishing. It's good for you. It makes the plants grow. It does this. It does that. So he has this real solid belief that it's nourishing for you. And the thing is, he had really healthy skin. So I've had a lot of experiences and a lot of things that are documented. Even, okay, here's one more. So it's the double blind test like I had in the last video. Double blind test is every single medicine, every pill, every shot, every lotion, everything that they make medically and they're going to sell medically, they have to do a double blind test. So for some of the people, they give the real medicine, the actual medicine. For the other people, it's a sugar pill. It's nothing. It's fake. It's not real. And yet those people that would get the sugar pill would heal of cancer or whatever malady, that this new pill was supposed to be made for. Now here's the really weird thing that I thought was really odd, because I'd actually heard this in a couple classes and a couple trainings, etc. And the professors never once thought that was impressive that people were being healed by the fake medicine. And just as important, the people that were taking the real medicine, something like 20 to 30 plus, maybe even 40, 50% of the people were not getting healed by it. So what's doing the healing? You are. In the book Think and Grow Rich, it says, whether you believe you can or cannot, you are correct. Meditate on that for a few seconds. So during our master practitioner, master hypnotherapist certification course in Hawaii, We had to hypnotize someone. There was a couple different tests. The test that I got was, and you had to do it in front of the entire class, and I think there was like 300 or 400 people in this class. It was a really big class. Maybe, yeah, it was definitely over 250. It was a lot of people. So I got a guy that was a bodybuilder, and a very strong guy, very healthy guy, probably 32 years old or something like that. And I had to convince his mind that he could not pick up a pencil. It might have actually been a pen now that I think about it. Now the good part is they actually gave us a script that we could read from and ask him questions and take him down this path unconsciously. So there's a part of it where you can repeat part of the script over and over and over to get his mind to actually accept this, okay? So here's the deal. When it came time for him, like, well, go ahead and see if you can pick it up. He couldn't. Now, in the beginning, I thought he was being fake. And he's like, and I remember he had this look of confusion on his face. And I looked at him and said, look, man, it's totally okay. You know, we can do it after this test. We get another chance with like another subject and whatever. So don't worry about it, you know, because you're not going to help me if you fake it. And he goes, no, I'm not kidding. I can't pick it up. And then Dr. Ted James goes, no, go ahead, pick it up, pick it up. And he looked at the pen, and he just grabbed it and tried to pick it up. And so what happened was this. After a few more minutes, he literally broke out in a sweat. Now it was Hawaii. It was fairly warm, but we did have the air conditioning on inside, but it was still fairly warm. And he broke out in a sweat. And he was just, and I'm like, are you being serious? He goes, Mike, I cannot pick up this damn pen. And everyone's clapping and cheering, and I'm having a really hard time. I'm like, dude, are you bullshitting me? I'm not. He goes, Mike, I'm not kidding. So then there's a part of the script at the end where you take them out of the trance. So once we did that, boom, he picked up the pen like it was nothing. And again, everyone was cheering. It was a really good experience. And here's the thing, what it really did for me. It was a really huge convincer to help me, my mind, to understand how powerful your unconscious mind is. See, even if you, because logically, you know, his smaller brain, his ego, believed like, yeah, I remember him looking like, dude, I'm going to pick it up. I'm like, yeah, I know. Shit, there's no way that freaking little script did that. And he couldn't pick it up. And I'm like, oh, now he's messing with me. He's trying to be nice and trying to help me pass the test. I go, dude, you don't have to do that. So what ended up happening was I began to realize that there's a conscious and an unconscious mind. And your unconscious mind, you ever seen that image, you know, where there's the iceberg and like 90+% of it's underneath the water, and your conscious mind is just that little tiny bit at the top? Well, that's essentially what it is. Your unconscious mind has more, like 93+% of all the power. And whatever it believes is what you create. We like to believe, well, it's logic or it's what we consciously believe. No, it's not. You know, there's a difference between saying consciously and consciousness. Consciously is in the box. Consciousness is completely wide open and expanded for miles and miles and miles, like this image. So one of the things that I do with people is there's a bunch of, one technique is called reframing. So when you come to me, the reason why your life is the way your life is because of what you already have inside that box. So once you have these beliefs like, oh, I can do this, I can't do this. So what I have to do is go inside and find out where's your limitations that are keeping you from having what you want in life. And that includes the perfect relationship, the perfect love, someone that you just melt and 5 years later you're still madly, happily in love, or you're a businessman, you're succeeding. There's all kinds of things that we have going on in our mind. All right, I'll give you one. It's a meta program. So we have about 15 to 18 meta programs approximately. So these are unconscious programs that just run. So you get to go to sleep and they just run. So if you happen to have really good meta programs for relationship or for business or money or success or a certain sport, you're going to do really, really well. But if you don't, well, you're screwed. Until you change that meta program or pop out of all your meta programs and become conscious in the moment. And that's what I do for a living. If you believe something, it's gonna be. So there's a series of techniques, consciousness techniques, that pop you out of your meta program, so you can begin to look at things from an open perspective and be like, wait a minute, that's actually not true. It's like, no, it's not true. So there will be these people that have what we call an away from meta program. Okay, so their motivation is away from. So they need something negative to run away from that gets them motivated. Like, I'm going to work hard to get away from that. So poverty for some people is a motivation. Okay, so here's the problem. You work really hard, but the problem is when you get far enough away from poverty, you kind of can't see it anymore, and you lose your motivation, and you kind of go all the way back. You lose your home, you lose your car, you lose your money, and then you're in poverty again, and you get motivated again because now you're totally in poverty. And once you start getting richer and richer and richer, and then you go all the way back. And this is what you'll find people that'll be millionaires, and then they lose it all. And then they work. 6 months later, a year later, they become a millionaire again, and then they lose it all. And they go up and down for the rest of their life until they change this to a towards meta program. And then all of a sudden, you're just constantly motivated because you're going towards what you want. So it never stops. These are the people that are just motivated all the time. They go towards their goals. They're driven, and they don't even know why. They're just like, that's where I want to be, and they get excited, and they keep going and going and going. Now, here's what will happen if they achieve their goal. Well, all of a sudden, the motivation's gone. But all you have to do is reset the goal and set another goal or set a higher goal, and boom, the motivation comes right back. So for those people, it's much easier to keep going. All right, so there are some other things, such as rapport skills. Okay, rapport. Now this could be used for sales. It could be for business. It could be having a great relationship, a great marriage that lasts. There's also something called predicate system. Now, predicate system. There's four languages that we speak unconsciously. I'll do another video. It might be the next one. It might be the one after that. But I'm going to go over predicate systems and something called deep love strategy. If you happen to have the same communication predicate system, or if you use two similar ones, like two of the four, you're going to have a great relationship. You're going to understand the person. You're going to get along with them well. They're going to like to talk to you. They're going to understand you. There's going to be clarity, so there's no stress. But when you don't have the same predicate system, all of a sudden there's tons of stress, and their brain's trying to figure out what are they saying, and they have to strain, and that strain to figure out what you're saying will cause stress in the relationship, even though nothing bad happened. You're just not speaking their language. The minute you speak their language, it becomes easy. It becomes smooth. There's suddenly clarity. So then there's deep love strategy. If you match up unconsciously with someone, and this is kind of a lucky thing, all of a sudden you're going to be pushing each other's love button, and you're both going to be happy. You're going to be content. You're going to feel loved all the time. A lot of people that get together don't match up because it's an unconscious thing until you learn it. When you match up with the same pattern, the same love button, we'll call it, okay, your deep love strategy, you're in deep love. But when you don't, and you're trying to push the button that you would make you feel good, and that's not their button, no matter how many times you push that button, no matter how hard you try to love them in that way, they're going to believe you don't love them. You don't even care about, and they'll, that's not love. You don't even care about me. And you're like, I'm doing everything I can. And so these will be relationships where they struggle and they cry and they hurt, and it's going to suck. And if you don't have this, and you don't have the predicate system, communication, which, by the way, you can once you learn how to do this, you can push their buttons, you can communicate in their predicate system, and you can still keep your predicate system, and that's fine. And all of a sudden, you can bring clarity and love into the relationship. Now, here's the deal. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, we as humans were always meant to develop and to evolve. The challenge is this. When you begin to expand, it can be a very terrifying experience for the first few days, even weeks, maybe even months. Like when you learn things that are outside of your box, your brain kind of freaks out, especially Western-minded people, because we're always about, nope, if it's not in the box, It's not real. People that are very left brain, they will humiliate you, they will laugh at you, they will call you names. Here's why, is because they are terrified to learn anything that's not in the box. If it's not in the box, if it's not taught by Professor College ABC and X, Y, and Z, and if it's not put in a book with certain words, it's like they won't learn it. They don't want to hear it. They think you're full of shit, and they're going to laugh at you. They're going to hear, and here's why. Because it terrifies them to step even a millimeter outside of the box. And that's what this video is about in the work that I do, is to get you to step outside of that box, even if it's only a little bit, to change that 1 or 2 limitations that's holding you back from living a better life. Now, this is a video with Scarlett Johansson. It's a movie she made. It is a phenomenal movie, especially as you get to the second half of the movie. The beginning puts the pieces together, okay? So she essentially begins to expand her mind because on accident, these drug dealers like forced her to be what they call a mule, and they cut her gut open. They put packets of this new drug inside of her, and they broke open inside of her and started to leak into her, and she became really, really smart because it was massive amounts of this drug. Now, the drug is a metaphor. I do not want you to think you need drugs to expand, to become much more spiritual and much more powerful, because drugs, Deepak Chopra said it best. He goes, a lot of people that do drugs, they're really trying to have a spiritual experience. And in the beginning, they do. The problem with drugs is they burn out your synapses and the chemical exchange between the two. And when you do that, it causes you to be very left brain, linear, and locked in. And you actually lose that expansiveness. So you try to do more and more drugs, and you just can't get back to that space that you found in the very early going of taking these drugs. And that's the trick of drugs, is they will end up limiting you completely and stopping you from expanding. So even in this movie Lucy with Scarlett Johansson, the drugs are literally just a metaphor for opening up. It's what we call an excuse and a, what do they call it, like a hall pass. It's a pass to say, oh, well, I have this excuse. Okay, like some people, if they get drunk, well, they'll be funny and they'll be goofy and they'll do silly stuff. But then the next day they'll say, oh, well, that really wasn't me. That was the alcohol. No, it really was you. It's really who you are on the inside. It's just for some reason you're too afraid to do that. Maybe got embarrassed when you're a kid or told that was wrong or whatever. Okay? Or you might have a belief that says, well, I'm not that funny, okay? Another one is hypnosis. People will use hypnosis kind of as a pass, or, like an excuse to say, oh, well, I wouldn't normally sing on stage and dance around and be goofy like that, but I was hypnotized. So you have an excuse to enjoy life, and that's kind of sad because maybe you have a belief that says you can't or you're not supposed to. So my whole goal in this is to talk about opening up. Because, okay, so she talks here, she says, and she's talking about cells. She says they exchange 1,000 bits of information between them per second. So there's massive amounts of information being exchanged, okay? Now just hold on a little bit. I know it might seem boring. But my point is this. We all believe, oh, it's, you got to do logical steps, or you got to do this, or you've got to take this pill, or you've got to take that pill, or you got to take this cream, or cigarettes are bad, or this or that. And you're like, yeah, but wait a minute. What about the guy over there who's, doing like so well, and he's out in the sun all day for 30, 40 years. He has beautiful, healthy skin. And he never uses skin lotion or suntan lotion at all, and never has. So in this video, now I'm going to leave a link to this. It's a quick 1-minute, 2-minute video. She kind of explains this. It's probably a little too fast, a little too much. And the only reason why I understand it is because when I went through this meditation phase at the very end of that 12 years, where I put 14, 15 days aside, I didn't eat any food, and I drank water. I think I had a little bit of salt, and I think that was it. I might have had a little bit of lemon juice. I'm not sure, but that was literally it. I didn't take anything. I meditated all day long, every day. It was the most amazing experience in the world. But along going through this, I'd already had experiences of like, how do I know this? Like, where's this information coming from? We were taught by our Western society that thinking is the way that you get there. And I'm telling you right now, thinking blocks you completely from getting there. You know, there was this, it was a TV show in like, I think the 90s. It was like teenage kids in high school, like Topanga, and I can't remember the other teenage kids. And there was Joey. Now, Joey, he always got the girls. And they're like, well, what's your secret, man? He goes, I don't know. Now, Joey was an airhead. In other words, he was a space case. In other words, Joey had no thoughts going in his head, and people used to make fun of him. And yet, he was the one that always got the girls. And the other guy's like, well, what's your secret? He's like, you know, man, honestly, I don't know. I just kind of look up and I space out, man. It just feels so good. And that was another thing. They're like, man, you always seem so mellow and so happy and just, you know, like not stressed. He goes, I don't know. I'm just not doing it. I just don't think. There's just no thoughts. And everyone laughs. But that was actually the unconscious or hidden message of that video. And then there's another more modern one that came out a few years ago where, and again, the kid's real silly. He's in boot camp and the drill sergeant comes over and he goes, holy shit, son. He's looking at his bed. He's looking at his boots. He goes, how did you shine those boots so hard? Sir, I don't know. I just did what you said. He goes, I just stopped thinking and you said do this and flip the tongue out and then flip it back in and repolish it. And Blake goes, that's what he goes, God damn, soldier, that's some, I forget what he said, but those are great looking boots. He goes, and he goes, and he looks at his bed. He goes, well, how'd you do that? He goes, sir, I don't know. I just stopped thinking. And then he opens up his foot locker and he goes, that's the best looking foot locker I have ever seen. And the drill sergeant goes, how did the worst soldier in the entire platoon become the best soldier? What is your secret, private? He goes, drill sergeant, I just stopped thinking. I just do what you tell me to do. Now that was just a really cute way of saying, hey, your thinking literally gets in your way. So when you stop thinking, okay, so Lucy in this movie is trying to explain to these logical, in-the-box scientists this outside-of-the-box understanding. And they're like, how do you do this? And she's, well, you know, and she's explaining it to them. And she's trying to get them to understand it's not in your logic. It's outside of your thinking. So when my girlfriend went missing for, I think it was over a month. I think it was 3 months at this point. Her sister called me because she had done this before and I was kind of used to it at this point. Her sister was really worried, and so that's why I meditated and I found her. And she was like, how did you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. I just like followed this feeling. I got out of my way. See, thinking is what gets in your way of receiving higher knowledge. All right, now during our NLP training, this is the first time I ever heard this. Dr. Tad James, now this was a room with I think the ceiling was about 14 feet high, I forget, but he had drawn this real big circle on the wall. So it was about 12 feet high or whatever, 8, 10, 15, 12 feet high. A big tall circle, 12 feet wide. And he goes, that part of your brain where you think is just, it's a millionth of this knowledge that you already have. All it is a tiny in a little doorway. And he gets on a ladder and he goes to the top and he makes this little tiny mark that none of us could see. He goes, in order to see this mark, it's so small, you would have to get up on this ladder and get really close to it to be able to see how tiny this is. That part of your brain that you are using to think, its only job was to decide whether to open up and let the information in or to close it and to block the information in case it was something like trauma, like a war, like bombs, or, you know, car accidents where people are really hurt. And so it doesn't traumatize your unconscious mind. That's its only job. And you're using the smallest part of your brain to process information, to think. And that's not the part of your brain you're supposed to think with. Another time, my girlfriend had taken off like that. She went to another place, completely the other side of the highway in the other direction. And again, I did the meditation. I just got it. Now, I had never been to this place except many, many years ago. And I just turned and like, well, maybe she's in here. And I went right to her. There was like rows and rows of cars. I took a right, boom, boom, boom. Took a left, boom. Went right to her car. Now, here's the purpose of this entire video. Your logic does not create. If you're limited on your money, on happiness, on joy, you got damaged by the narcissist, you don't make enough money, you don't have the job of your dreams, your relationship sucks, I don't know what it is. It's because of what you have in the box, and you're operating from that little box. Number one, we can change that. We can expand your box, okay? There's new teachings that will shift your entire life. Now here's the other thing. What Lucy was trying to explain in this movie is essentially when she says, every cell shares 1,000 bits of information per second. In other words, you don't need to do that. But when you're thinking, that's what you're trying to do. You're sending one bit of information per second, and that's extremely slow. You create through your emotions. I wish I had an image. It's like all this information begins to move and shift through your emotions. Essentially, this is why narcissists are jealous of you and they try to copy you. They try to do something that you're doing in a right brain way, and they're trying to codify it and limit it and put it in a box in their left brain. And they can't figure out why it never works out. Like, well, how come they can do it but I can't? It's because you have to open up to your emotions and your feelings and create from there. The right brain is the creative, emotional, spiritual brain. Okay, I think I got a good way to explain this. So number one, how do you think I'm making this video right now? I'm looking at no notes, zero, nada, nothing, no notes at all. I have an image in my mind and I'm painting it with my words. So how do you think Jesus turned water into wine? How do you think Jesus healed that woman, or when the woman touched his garment? How do you think she healed just like that? Did you notice how intensely emotional she was? Did you notice, like, I'm trying to think of another, like the young girl who's about probably 16, where she was dead. I can't remember the man's name, but he begged Jesus to come to his home to save his daughter. She's on the verge of death. By the time they got there, she was already dead, and these women were there wailing. They were paid to do it, and this priest was there. Oh, she's already dead. And Jesus like, no, she's not. She's just sleeping. And the guy looked at her like, no, she's dead. Which she was dead, but Jesus was trying to, basically get past him. And all of a sudden, Jesus woke her up, and like, whoa, how is he doing this? Like, how is he? Or like the blind man, he spit, got mud in his fingers and spit on it, and then rubbed it in the guy's eyes, and boom, he can see. And then there's the woman who couldn't see. She was been blind for, I think it was 10 years or 12 years or longer. And he just basically touches her, and for a moment just imagines, boom, she starts to see. Well, how is this possible? Emotions, opening up to your right brain, visualization. It's really not your right brain, it's your body. You open up to your physical flesh in your body, and you do it from there. It's an open, expansive awareness, and whatever you imagine from that space creates. So I started doing healing work on people, and I began to realize one of the easiest things to heal was cancer, and that kind of shocked me, because I realized all cancer is emotion. It's usually some kind of blockage or extremely negative emotion that got locked in there, and all I have to do is unlock it and then shift the energy. It's almost like moving sand or moving water, and then bringing in a light, love, light, and healing, an energy that goes into there and heals it. It's just energy shifting from one space to another. I forget how Jesus said it, but he says that I don't know if he said it unto his apostles or the people in the future, but he said there will be those who do even greater, I don't know if he used the word miracles, or will do greater signs than even I. I'm going to make a recommendation. Watch the movie Lucy, and start watching movies like that, like what's the one with Jim Carrey and God, and then there's the other one, Evan and God. God, what is the name of that? Hold on. So it's called Bruce Almighty. And then there's another one called, here, Here, hold on. I think it's called Evan Almighty. It's right here. Yeah, Evan Almighty. I never dawned on me that there was Bruce Almighty and Evan Almighty. It was both about God, and it was the same actor, and it was a black actor who played God. And I'm seeing this picture right now, and I cannot think of his name right now. Oh man, he's a really famous actor. But you can look it up. Just look up Bruce Almighty or Evan Almighty. I'll say, here's my point. A lot of these movies are actually trying to teach you something. They're trying to get you to believe. They're trying to get you to realize that limited box that you're in is not reality. And that's what Lucy says in the movie, is like, we as humans. So, now here's the funny thing. I'm going to have to look up his name, because it's the same actor that's in the same movie with Lucy. The one that played God in Evan Almighty and Bruce Almighty. It's Morgan Freeman. Alright, so here's all I'm trying to say at this point in this video. I'm gonna wrap this up. Start watching movies about inspiration, movies about magic, movies about Jesus healing people, and because the more your brain begins to accept this as reality, the more you begin to create your life in the way that you want. Because you are the ultimate creator of your life. It even says in the book of Genesis something to the effect of, we're going to make man, he and she, like us. Something like that, right? In other words, we are supposed to be creators. Another word for that is manifestors, okay? It's the same word. You're creating. Now, I really shouldn't use the word mind, because it's not a mind. It's an empty space. It's emotions. Now, emotions are like water. They move freely. Now, here's the really, really cool thing about all of this. Number one, I don't care how much the narcissist put those negative thoughts and how many times they did. Now watch how this works. But the narcissist taught this to me ever since I was a child. My mom said this, and I believe you. I know they do, because it happened to me. I get it. Here's the really cool thing about all of this. Here's why I don't care. It's like a cup of water. It's like a small bucket. Now let's stick with a cup of water. All you have to do is start pouring into your cup what you want, because you're not really creating mental things. You're beginning to create your emotions. You watch this, like, one thing I noticed about me is, like, if I would watch a movie about something, or read a book about energy, or read a book about, I don't know, I've got a book a long time ago. Let me, hold on a second. So the book is called ESP and You. Okay, and that book, I noticed when I started really getting into it. Now, I noticed with most books, I got to read it for about 15, 20 minutes, and boom, now I'm in the book. I'm in that writer's world. And all of a sudden, notice I had these abilities. I'm like, wait, what the hell's going on? And so the next day, I'm like, I'm going to read that damn book again. So I started reading some more, and it started happening some more. And I thought, oh, this is really cool. So essentially, all you're doing is, what are you pouring into your cup of water? Because when you pour new water in, it pushes, like, okay, have you ever put a cup of water in a sink, right? A glass. And you turned on the sink, and the water went into it, and it pushed out the old water, or whatever was there even 2 minutes before, 2 seconds before. It pushes it out. That's all we're doing. So this is why I don't care what the narcissist said and what they brainwashed or conditioned into you or whatever. All you have to do is start reading books. Like, another good book is The Magic of Believing by Claude M. Bristol. Now, the ESP book, I don't know if that's a good book, but here's what it says. I googled this. It says ESP and You by Holzer Hans. To the vitality, that doesn't make sense, important exploration of that companion to outer space and inner space, man himself. See, when you learn to open up, you receive information from something out there. It's like water, it just pours into you. See, when Bruce Lee says, empty your mind, be formless, be shapeless, like a cup receives water. So when the cup is empty, now you can receive. Most people that listen to Bruce Lee, to say that, they have no idea what he's talking about. And these are people that, oh, Bruce Lee was so smart, so cool, blah. I'm I'm like, do you know what that means? Like, oh, not really. Or like they give you some bull. No, it literally means to meditate, to clear your mind so you can receive. When you come and work with me, my emptiness, my clarity will allow your energy to clear out. It's like your energy notices it, connects with it, and goes, oh, I see what's going on. And it helps your energy to clear and to ground. So whether you work with me one-on-one, come to my my grounding technique class, the why men just don't get it, because I usually connect the emotionally grounding and internal class. These are all the techniques I teach in the class, is how to empty your mind so you can open up and receive. Einstein, Tesla, I can go on and on. The reason why these people had these abilities is because, especially Tesla, he had this ability to just completely clear his mind and empty himself and just wait to receive information that he was like, I don't know where it comes from. And I tell you guys this all the time. It just comes from the ether. It comes from out there. All I do is I'll listen to music till I cry, or I'll meditate, or I'll do deep breathing techniques. I do these techniques to open up, and boom, all of a sudden there's this knowledge that I've never even heard of. It's like, oh, this is really cool. It's the same thing I do when I work with clients, but the number one thing I have to do is to open up. So while I'm working with you, I'm working on myself opening. I'm doing these techniques, boom, 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 expanding. And all of a sudden I get to this space where I'm literally wide open like a funnel, and I'm receiving every word, every tone, rhythm, tempo, your body language, the little flickering of your eyes, the flickering of your fingers. I'm receiving massive amounts of information, and it's all painting a picture. And also like, oh, I see what's going on. Oh, they need this. Oh, okay. And it'll be something that I've never even heard of. I mean, I do techniques all the time that I never read it in a book, I never learned it in a class, never got it in a certification course. And then boom, it works. And that's what it's all about. It's becoming free to go where you want, to be what you want, to think what you want, to feel what you want, to be happy, to laugh, to be funny, to be calm, to whatever. Since you're already creating your life, start creating what you want. The information is there. The information of the entire universe, entire whatever you want to call it. You heard of the Akashic Records? This is information that supposedly we all have from past lives. It's in all the way back, etc. I can meet people and in a moment tell them either what they're thinking, what their religion is, what their mother's religion is, even if it's a completely different religion, what their grandmother's religion is. I've actually done this. A young lady at a club, we started talking, and all of a sudden I just like, how do I know this? And I looked at her, I'm like, you're like a Christian. She goes, uh-huh. I go, your mother, she's Catholic. She goes, or maybe it was Southern Baptist, I forget which one it was. And I go, but your grandmother's from the islands, like Jamaica or something, or Haiti, and she does like that, I can't remember the word, but it's basically a voodoo. And she goes, yeah. She goes, how do you know that? Because her grandma's still all in Louisiana. And that's what I said. I said, and you're not from here. You were born in, or maybe I said her mom was born in Louisiana and she was born here, or maybe it was the other way around. But the point being is, like, she's like, how do you know that? And I'm kind of, at the time, I'm like, fuck, I don't know. All I'm saying is this, the information is there. You have the power to completely radically shift your life and create what you want out of life. Start having fun with this. Start with something small. Start with, I want to find $20 bill as I'm walking down the sidewalk. And if you find a 10, 5, and 5 ones, well, that's close enough. Alright guys, God bless you. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it expanded your mind a little bit. I know it was a long video. Go ahead and click subscribe, click the like button, and if you want, go ahead and make a comment. And you can also make a donation right down there. There's a PayPal link and in the description box. And that's it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.